Late afternoon sunlight slants through the living room windows, turning the scattered Lego bricks on the carpet into bright islands around Mark's socked feet as he sits on the couch with his laptop open and a manila envelope in his lap. The TV murmurs with a kid's cartoon in the background, and the laughter of his 3 children echoes faintly from upstairs, a comforting soundtrack he's grown used to over 10 years. Mark's hands are rough and paint-stained from a weekend of fixing the fence, but they tremble slightly as he stares at the logo of the DNA testing company printed on the envelope. "It's just for fun," he mutters to himself, replaying how his brother had convinced him to try it, making a joke about Viking ancestry at last week's barbecue. With a small, almost embarrassed chuckle, he slips a finger under the flap and tears it open, his brow furrowing as he glances up once toward the ceiling where he can hear his youngest yelling, "Daddy, look at me!" followed by a thud and more giggles. An hour later, the kitchen is bathed in warm, yellow light from the pendants over the island, illuminating the half-cleared dinner plates, a smear of ketchup, and a toppled plastic cup leaking juice onto the table. Mark stands alone at the counter with his laptop open, the glow of the screen washing his face pale as he scrolls through the DNA report, his jaw tightening with each line he rereads. A notification plainly states, "No biological relationship detected between tested subject and listed children," and the words seem to swim as he whispers, That can't be right," his voice cracking on the last word. His fingers curl around the edge of the laminate countertop until his knuckles go white, the sound of the dishwasher humming and the faint clinking of plates inside suddenly unbearably loud. He reaches for his phone with a shaky hand, hesitates as he hovers over Emma's contact, his wife, then pulls back, swallowing hard as a wave of nausea and disbelief rolls through him. Later that night, the bedroom is dim except for the soft bedside lamp on Emma's nightstand, casting a warm halo over her as she sits cross-legged on the bed, folding laundry into neat piles. Mark stands near the doorway, still in his work shirt but barefoot, the DNA printout crumpled slightly in his hand, his shadow long and distorted against the wall. "We need to talk," he says, the words heavy and flat, and Emma looks up with a tired but patient smile that quickly fades when she sees his expression. He crosses the room and holds out the paper. She takes it, her brow knitting as she scans the results. Then her face drains of color, and she whispers, "Mark? I can explain," the folded t-shirt slipping from her lap to the duvet. His voice rises, rough with hurt and disbelief. "Explain what?" "That for 10 years I've been raising kids who aren't mine and you never told me?" And his eyes shine with unshed tears as he takes a step back, as if the bed itself has become something dangerous. The master bathroom, harshly lit by bright vanity bulbs, feels smaller than ever as Emma stands by the sink gripping the cold porcelain, eyes red and swollen, while Mark leans against the closed door with his arms folded tight across his chest. The mirror reflects both of them, but he refuses to meet their reflected gaze, staring down at the tiled floor instead as she speaks in a hoarse whisper. "I didn't know for sure, Mark. I swear, I didn't know," her voice breaking on the last word. Water drips from the still-running tap into the basin, each drop a loud, irregular beat between them. "You knew enough to be afraid," he shoots back, bitterness curling in his tone. "You knew enough to lie every single day." She reaches a trembling hand toward him, palm open, but he flinches, knocking over a bottle of lotion that clatters into the sink, and he finally looks up, eyes wounded, asking almost childishly, "Was anything about us real?" The next morning, gray light seeps through the kitchen blinds, turning the unwashed dishes in the sink into dull, cluttered silhouettes as the kids eat hurried bowls of cereal at the table. Mark stands by the coffee maker in wrinkled clothes, dark circles under his eyes, staring blankly as the machine gurgles and spits a thin stream of coffee into a chipped mug that reads, "World's Best Dad." His eldest, Lily, looks up from her spoon, sensing the tension, and asks softly, "Dad, are you and Mom mad at each other?" While the youngest swings her legs and hums, oblivious. Mark forces a tight smile that doesn't reach his eyes, setting the mug down too hard so it sloshes. "No, sweetheart," he says, voice hoarse. "We're just figuring some things out." And when Emma appears in the doorway, their eyes meet for a brief, charged second before he looks away, feeling the handle of the mug burn his fingers like something he doesn't deserve to hold. That evening, the living room is dim except for the soft glow of a floor lamp and the animated colors flickering from the TV, where a cartoon plays at low volume as all three kids huddle on the couch under a faded blue blanket. Mark kneels in front of them on the carpet, his knees pressing into the familiar indentations where toy trucks usually sit, his hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles look almost translucent. He glances toward the closed hallway door where Emma waits. Then back at the children, his voice unsteady as he says, "There's something I need to tell you, something about our family." And the middle child frowns, asking, "Are we moving?" with worried eyes. The mantel above them is lined with framed photos, first days of school, birthday cakes, messy ice cream smiles, and Mark's gaze lingers on them as if trying to memorize every image. As Lily's lower lip trembles, he chokes on the sentence he'd rehearsed, "I'm not your biological father," and instead only manages, "No matter what you ever hear, I love you. That will never change," pulling them into a tight, almost desperate hug that makes the blanket slip to the floor. A week later, the sterile conference room at the law office is lit by cold fluorescent panels that wash the beige walls and laminated wood table in a lifeless glow, contrasting sharply with the bright children's artwork paper-clipped to the manila folders in front of the attorney. Mark sits on one side of the table, his posture rigid in an ill-fitting blazer, fingering the edge of a photo where he's holding his youngest on his shoulders at the beach, while Emma sits across from him, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on a point just above his head. The attorney clears his throat and speaks in a practiced, neutral tone. "Given the DNA evidence and the state statutes, we need to discuss custody, financial obligations, and potential claims of paternity fraud," his words falling like heavy stones between them. "They're my kids," Mark cuts in sharply, voice rough. "I changed their diapers. I taught them to ride bikes. I stayed up with them when they had fevers," his composure cracking as his voice rises. Emma's eyes finally meet his, glistening, and she whispers, "You're their dad, Mark. No test can change that." But his jaw clenches as he looks back at the attorney and asks in a low, defeated tone, "So why does this paper say I'm not?" On a drizzly Sunday afternoon, the park's usual bright greens are muted under a low, gray sky. The playground empty, except for Mark and the kids gathered under the wooden shelter by the picnic tables. Raindrops tap a restless rhythm on the metal roof as the children pick half-heartedly at soggy fries from a fast food bag, their jackets zipped up to their chins. Mark sits across from them with a damp baseball cap pushed back on his head, eyes ringed with fatigue, his hands wrapped around a cardboard coffee cup that's gone lukewarm. "So your mom and I have decided I'm going to get a place nearby," he says carefully, watching their faces as the words land, the air seeming to thicken around them. Lily blinks back tears and asks, "Is it because of us?" And he quickly shakes his head, sliding the cup aside so he can reach for her hand, saying with fierce conviction, "Never because of you. I'm always going to be your dad. I just might not wake up in the same house anymore," his voice faltering as his youngest crawls into his lap and buries her face in his chest. Months later, in a small, sparsely furnished apartment living room lit by the soft orange glow of a single floor lamp, Mark kneels on the rug, helping his middle child assemble a lopsided model rocket. The walls are mostly bare except for a crookedly hung cluster of photos he insisted on bringing. First day of kindergarten, Halloween costumes, a family trip to the zoo, and a cheap second-hand couch sits against one wall with a pile of blankets on one end. The kids' weekend overnight bags are lined up neatly by the door, and from the kitchenette comes the faint sound and smell of a frozen pizza crisping in the oven. "Do you think, when I'm older, I'll be able to fly real rockets?" the boy asks, concentrating on a stubborn sticker, and Mark smiles, smoothing it down with gentle fingers. "If you want it and you work hard, yes," he answers, then adds quietly, "I'll be there, cheering you on every step." And when the boy looks up and says without hesitation, "I know, Dad," something in Mark's tight shoulders finally loosens, the ache of what he's lost coexisting with the fragile, stubborn hope of what still remains.